So this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race was all about pride. It was a very touchy-feely, mushy episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. Has anyone noticed the subtle political tongue-in-cheek humor that Sharon Needles has been showing on the show? Last week, she had on the McCain and Palin t-shirt from the 2008 election. This week it was Nixon Now. And RuPaul's geography lessons that she teaches each week when she's introducing Milan is really getting on my nerves. Thankfully, we won't ever have to hear London, Paris, Milan ever again. And I'm not so sure about those spring breakers on the show. A lot of them looked like straight guys, and it looked like it was stock footage off of MTV's spring break parties that they used to have every year. Now, there were a couple that were obviously gay. That first challenge was pretty interesting, the wet t-shirt contest. I mean, it was pretty obvious that Willem was going to win. There were a couple of queens that were trying a little bit too hard. Like, Fifi did try. She did pretty good until her boobs started coming off and her hair came off. She didn't do too good in this mini challenge. Now, she'd gotten used to winning a lot of the mini challenges, but the first mini challenge... Sorry, technical difficulties. My cat is really messing up this video shoot. I was going to say that this was the first mini challenge that Willem conclusively won. The previous one where Willem had won, I think it was the Queens Behind Bars episode. I liked her mini challenge win, but there were a couple queens that I thought could have won it, and if I remember correctly, it was Fifi and Kenya. Was it? Yeah, I think it was them. They did really good in that challenge. They looked like rednecks. Okay, so the main challenge this week was called Hope Floats. And it was they had to basically put together a boat costume and a runway costume on the same challenge. But they had to basically stand inside of a boat, and it would be like a parade float. And they were given assignments based on the colors from the original gay pride flag. Hold on while I go murder my cat. Anyway, it was all about colors tonight on this episode. You can't tell. I have dyed my hair blue. This washes right out, so it's not going to be blue all night. And I'm dressed in blue for the theme of the colors this week. And of course, like every week, Jiggly Caliente was complaining about her assignment. She didn't like the color that she got, which was orange. She said she looks horrible in orange, and she was complaining about how she couldn't get the boat together, and she really didn't throw together her runway look until at the last minute. Everyone was complaining about that. And because it was about gay pride, a lot of the queens actually put inspirational messages on their boats. Sharon Needles knew that green in the original gay pride flag represented nature, so she put this huge snake on her arm. And when they asked her if she was going with a Garden of Eden theme, she said no. She was actually going with a Medusa theme. If you look at me, I'll turn you into Stonewall. And then Willem decides to decorate his boat. I say him because actually it was a funny, if you watch the Untucked episode, Kenya actually wrote a letter to all the remaining drag queens and kind of threw shade at all of them, and she said that Willem had a man face. Had a great body, but a man face. And Willem decides to decorate his boat with nothing but stars, and they were stickers that he had made with his face on it. Now, granted, he did very well with his boat, and very well on the runway. I mean, it was a killer runway, and he definitely did deserve to win both the mini challenge and also the runway challenge. I think Willem just knocked it out of the park this week, and was one of those queens that really needed to do that to basically remain viable in this competition. And I gotta agree with Fifi this week. on Untucked when she said this was supposed to be about, hope floats. This is a gay pride celebration, not about if you can put your face on a boat and see if it floats. But sprinkled throughout this episode, there were a lot of snippets of gay pride history that they decided to put in the show. And a lot of it was pretty informational. I mean, if you've learned about it in school, or, you've read about it online, or seen it in the news, then you knew most of the stories that were told. But apparently Jiggly did not know this, because in Untucked, she had to be schooled in the history of drag. When it finally came time for the runway challenge, there were a couple queens I think did stand out quite a bit. Willam, as I said, I did like Willam's look, and I do agree with the judges that Willam should have won this particular challenge. But I also think, now Fifi did great. This was actually the first week I can honestly say that there's nothing negative that I could really say about Fifi. The look was great. The makeup was spot on. The boat was actually pretty attractive. In the workroom, I believe that Fifi actually gave constructive criticism. Didn't really bitch too much. This was, I think, the first week. I may be mistaken here, but I think this is the first week that, other than a little bit of subtle eye rolling, Fifi really didn't have anything negative to say about Sharon Needles. And I found that kind of surprising. And on Untucked, she was talking about, gay pride and how important it was. This challenge kind of brought it out for everyone. About how drag queens all need to stick together. And pretty much love each other. And, I think that really resonated because you didn't see Sharon and Fifi battling this week like you normally do. Maybe off camera they settled their differences or talked it out, hugged it out, just got the anger out. Or maybe the fact that they're beginning to respect one another in this competition. And this is actually the first week that we actually had two guest judges that I actually know, and I actually really like both of them. It was Kelly Osbourne and Polly Perrette from NCIS. But also on the judging panel was Billy B, which I'm never really fond of seeing Billy B on the judging panel. I think he's just really negative and kind of judgmental in his comments that I think a judge up there needs to be a little bit more classy when they're giving out criticism. For instance, when he was talking about Chad Michaels, he said that Chad Michaels was pretty good. You could definitely get the showgirl theme for her boat, but she looked too traditional. Said that Dita was too pedestrian. Said that Jiggly's look looked like it was out of a 6th grade art class. Actually, I can probably see that. That's not too harsh. And he also said that Milan, about Milan writing the Milan invasion on her boat, was offensive to him. Interestingly, during the judges' critiques, Michelle Visage actually said that if Milan ends up in the bottom 2 and she took off her wig, then it was game over for Milan immediately, right on the spot, and she should go home. Ironically, that's exactly what Milan did. She took her wig off, and Milan went home this week. But back to Billy B and his criticism. He said that Sharon Needles' boat looked like her boat actually sank a few years ago and had grown a lot of moss on it. Maybe it's the color, but isn't that kind of the point of green? I mean, she could have schooled Billy B on the history of the color green in that rainbow flag. It was for nature. So moss is part of nature. So therefore she killed out. I did find that snake puppet, though, a little bit distracting. But it wasn't nearly as distracting, unfortunately, as Latrice Royale's outfit. Now, Latrice Royale, her makeup, everything was really, really good. Her outfit, her boat. I mean, I liked every single bit of the costume. She did look like a sea goddess, like Poseidon rising out of the water. The problem was that she put rhinestones all over her face, all over her lips, all over her eyes, all over the edges of her hair. It didn't really look like rhinestones to me. It actually kind of looked like barnacles were clinging to her face. Now, there's nothing wrong with that look, I guess. I just don't know how she could talk with all that stuff on her face. But I guess it looked alright considering that it was a boat challenge, and barnacles do grow on boats. But finally, back to Billy B and his criticism of Fifi. Now, he liked Fifi's look, but it was kind of like a backhanded compliment because he goes, "You're on the right track." I didn't see anything wrong with it this week, to be honest. So that was pretty much the review for this week. Like I said, Willem won. And I think it was about time for Willem to actually win something of importance. And I think Fifi did great. I think Sharon did great. So glad that Milan is going home. I really don't want to hear that stupid line from RuPaul anymore. London, Paris, Milan. But while I am glad that we're going to be saying goodbye to Milan this week, I'm not too happy about the fact that Jiggly Caliente is still here. Just don't like Jiggly Caliente. If you watched Untucked, when they read the letter from Kenya goes right after Jiggly Caliente, and it's like, you should have went home the first week. While I do agree with that, I do think that Jiggly Caliente probably should have went home that first week. Elisa Summers, her outfit was what ended up killing her, and she was very reserved in her lip sync. And it seems like, because it's lip syncing for your life, that is when you really need to step up and show that you are ready to stay there. And I gotta give Jiggly credit. Looking back on it, she did actually kill it that first week. But I'm rambling, so guess I'll end this video here. But I really gotta say, I really am beginning to think that the top 5 is going to be Latrice Royale, Sharon Needles, Chad Michaels, probably, I mean, it's got to be Willem and Fifi in rounding out the top 5. but it's beginning to look more and more like those are going to be your final five as the weeks go on.